What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Matchmaker Fantasy Booking edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And of course, if you have not checked out our previous edition of this, where we did the mock draft that sets this whole thing up, make sure you go back and check that out, because that explains how we got to the rosters that we are working with today, how we did the randomizer, how the whole setup with Night of Champions was, with the title belts being all grouped together and certain champions being in certain different tiers and all that good stuff. It's like a 2.5 hour or so podcast, but we'll give you a breakdown of all the good things that goes along with that, including the roster that we have up here on our screens right now if you're watching on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, by the way, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and set up your email alerts. Also, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, make sure that you click on the join button that is right next to the subscribe button and get yourself some access to Darkcast tier and the Pick a Poison tier and all that. Even $1 a month is greatly appreciated. We thank you for your support. Same thing as if you are over on Patreon, if you're listening to this on the audio-only platforms, and you obviously are not on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, though, as well, click on the thanks button, toss a little spare change our way. And if you want to pick up merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can figure that out and buy whatever it is that those different products are, slap those merchandise labels on and stuff. Keep in mind, too, that we want to know what your comments are below on YouTube. And if you are elsewhere, join the Discord server and tell us what you think about our cards. Tell us what you would have booked, maybe alternative ideas, anything along those lines. And, Discord's also available for anything else. If you want to be chatting during a pay-per-view, or you want to just share some memes or something along those lines, or maybe even join when we do live things where we are a part of the Discord channel. So, any of that stuff's awesome. So on the matchmaker side of things, though, if you are brand new to this concept, we did our mock draft. We have our rosters, and the goal in mind isn't just to pick the rosters and then go, all right, well, that's what we picked. That's the end of it, because then what's the point? Why would you picking? We can't play a game or do some kind of like actual performance thing for this. So instead, we book a card. We do the fantasy booking stuff here, and that is brought out in a couple different ways. We can make a card of almost anything that we want to, unless we give ourselves some kind of a restriction. Like if we're specifically booking, like, all right, this is like a Royal Rumble card, you gotta have a Royal Rumble match in there, or this is an all women's pay-per-view, so we're gonna do it basically as Evolution or something along those lines. This was pretty left open. It's just, these are the people that we're working with. What do you figure out? And we have our whole rosters, as I mentioned before. We all have our cards sorted out. So we're going to give you a breakdown of how we decided to work with these names. And anybody want to go first for their cards? Or do you want me to? Doesn't matter to me.
I will go first because that gets it out of the way. And then I will just listen to you guys and your phenomenal cards, which I'm sure, you guys always put a lot of thought and effort into yours.
I'm going to switch back over to the matchmaker graphic for now so people don't see the card, in 2 seconds.
For me, I really felt like this was challenging. Like, because there's a lot of great names to the point where somebody's going to get put in the mid card, somebody's going to get put in the opener, and you're going to feel like, oh man, do I want to pair? It's almost like Tony talked about during the draft, where imagine you get Shawn Michaels first, and you're like, and I'm putting him with Marty Jannetty. Like, do you put Los Guerreros together, or do you have Eddie Guerrero in a single? I had a lot of those struggles, but ultimately what I did was I did 2 nights. The first night being Night of Champions, and the second night being Evolution.
You did have a lot of women's picks. So that makes sense.
And I did the thing where, look, sometimes it's a real fun challenge. Sometimes it's a huge detriment, but I wanted to get everybody on the card in some ways. And I did that. I'm happy with some of the card. I feel like some of it was a cop-out, which I'm sure you guys will call me out on when you see them. But we'll get started here with I guess we'll have Evolution first, because that's what WWE would do. Evolution starts with the Queen of the Ring semifinals, and Chelsea Green defeats Ivory. And then we go to another Queen of the Ring semifinal where Sol Ruka defeats Callie Armstrong. Now, I think both of these women are fun. They're going to be top stars in the future. I didn't want to put Callie Armstrong in too high of a position, but I also didn't want to just be like, yeah, I got stuck with the Evolved champion, so I don't know, I'll leave her off the card. And then in the finals of that tournament, Chelsea Green would go on to defeat Sol Ruka. I kind of said this on another podcast, but I would love to see Chelsea Queen.
Mhm.
I think she'd have a lot of fun with that. I will say that I had initially, when I was just going through this in my head before I started, going over the list and everything again, I had thought that I drafted Alundra. So one of my original ideas was going to be Chelsea just defending the women's United States title against Alundra and having other women in the Queen of the Ring. But then I realized she was on Tony's team, but quick fix. Kind of happy with the result. I think Chelsea Green would make a phenomenal Queen of the Ring. But what do you guys think of that as a way to get some of the tougher women to book on the card?
I forget who else you had on there. If I would have maybe thrown, let me take a look. I might as well take a look at what you're. Well, depending on if you tag anybody up or anything, certain names definitely I would be like, okay, they're higher up on the card, but like maybe a Liv Morgan I would have put in the Queen of the Ring, maybe Candice, maybe Dakota, maybe Natty.
I did consider Queen Morgan for a moment. I also considered Callie Armstrong gets to the finals and Sol Ruka is the one who wins. When I was thinking Chelsea would be elsewhere. But I did tag some women up. I did tag some women up because my women's tag team championship match is a triple threat. Heavy emphasis on the triple threat means no DQ. It's the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, defending the titles against Candice and Dakota, and the tag team of Bull Nakano and the Monster Ripper, Bertha Faye. I wasn't going to use Bertha Faye as Bertha Faye because that's ridiculous. But I do have Bull Nakano and Monster Ripper go over. Presumably somebody pins Dakota. Like, that's just how that would go in this kind of show.
Or Candice.
Yeah, like that team was probably going to get pinned, and then the other two teams would go on to have, much more dedicated 2v2 tag team feud.
Was Monster Ripper a name that Rhonda Singh had gone by?
I wouldn't have just pulled that out of my ass.
I don't know.
She did go by Monster Ripper in Japan, and it was a huge deal there. And I think that would be a fun way to pair these two up.
I like that idea of the monster heel type getting in there, and either are they retaining the tag titles or are they winning?
They're winning from the Kabuki Warriors, but by pinning the other team, so the Kabuki Warriors can come back and fight them, and
I like it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good triple threat match. And it's well, I say I'm not surprised because obviously Asuka and Kairi Sane do have a long-standing tag team, so it makes sense to pair them up together. I probably would have, if it was my choice, I probably would have paired Kairi up with Julia instead and moved Asuka into a bigger singles match.
I did think of that as well, because I also thought that I had some more names on here. Because once I got to it, I was like, oh, I did get a lot of women, but maybe not as many as I thought. So I was kind of putting the pieces together where I could. And this match is a good example because this is another triple threat. It's a women's Intercontinental Championship triple threat. And it's Natty going in as champion. And she's defending against Liv Morgan and Nikki Bella. Now, here's my reasoning for this, and I have to say, if I didn't have the job I have, this wouldn't be a match. Because the reason I went with this is Natty is currently largely focusing on the training side with the dungeon, and Morgan and Bella are frequent people who go to the dungeon for training. Nikki has been regularly there, and it's been really interesting reading about all that. So I kind of made Natty the teacher going against two of her students, and she's gonna lose because I want Natty as women's IC champion, but I didn't want her to. I don't think she'd have a long reign. I think she'll kind of have a gold watch kind of run. But
Makes
I did
sense.
also consider making this the show where she wins it. I was like, yay, and then Natty wins, but I couldn't find a strong enough woman to put against her. And I thought, if I'm going to have Liv come in, maybe I have Liv win the title here, and we'll carry it forward since she's, the youngest star of the three and can do stuff moving forward with the title.
I love how we all tend to book our cards with the idea in mind that we're planning for the future, even though we never really
fake.
It's entirely fake, and we never really do the follow-ups. Which we can in the future at some point, but
we'll talk about that more in the men's too, because I'm like, I was really struggling. I still booking a real card.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
I think we put more effort into planning our future cards out of these things that do not exist than a lot of other companies do. And actually, they're real people.
Moving forward, I got my WWE Women's US Championship. It's Nia Jax going in as champion, defending and losing to Julia. I went with this because I had originally had Jax losing to Solruka in the Queen of the Ring, because I thought, though that whole match can be built around Jax overpowering her, and then wow, you hit a soul snatcher out of nowhere. But then I thought, let me make Chelsea Green Queen of the Ring by beating Ruka, and then I was like, I guess Julia with the Joshi background can maybe tell the best story with the monster heel. So that's the route I decided to go. And Julia's the new women's US champion, and I imagine in the real world she will be here shortly too.
Yeah, I'm like, I might as well just write that post up already, right? Julia gets the spotlight, Liv Morgan gets the spotlight. I'm liking that stuff so far.
Then we got our two main events. And this one I've given the tagline of the man versus the McMahon. For the WWE Women's Championship, Becky Lynch defends and defeats against Stephanie McMahon. And I just it seems like something that they would have done had, let's just assume COVID doesn't happen. Let's assume, Hunter and Steph stay on TV after the Ronda match. I think you would have gotten to this point eventually if Stephanie was ever going to have another match. But they never did. This is really strong WWE stuff here. Actually, a lot of this whole card is. But I think it would play out nicely. And I think especially for this thing, because Becky Lynch, the man, is kind of, anti-authority. Stephanie, I actually was going to call it the man versus the man, as in being held down by the man. But I imagined WWE would just be like, yeah, we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be McMahon, and we got to brand everything. So I really went into this again as if I'm booking a real card with merge and all these things.
This should be sponsored by McDonald's.
Yeah, I mean, these days it would be. What do you think about that, Cal?
I'm not loving it.
I mean, that's unfortunate for our sponsor, McDonald's, but
You mean to tell me this would not be your favorite in-ring match?
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I don't think it's the greatest spotlight of Becky's career. But you know, Stephanie has had good matches with good wrestlers. She can put it together. It's a good, like, it's a sports entertainment match.
My argument with this is like, is it the best match for Becky? No, but was that 2019 the man presentation not the peak of Becky's career? Like, I'm presenting her like that. And then my main event, honest to God, my tagline for this was going to be, how the hell has this not happened? Rhea Ripley against Bianca Belair. It's like, this match has not happened on a main roster WWE pay-per-view. It's almost threading the line of becoming one of those that they might not get to if other things just come up. But yeah, these two women are the modern face of the WWE women's division. They're tremendous. They should have many WrestleMania singles matches against one another. And I went with Rhea defending and winning because I just think the idea of both major champions retain is something unexpected. But yeah, Bianca and Rhea would absolutely main event any pay-per-view. In fact, they're the two women who I think could headline Mania nowadays, and you'd believe it.
Interesting that you go with Queen of the Ring being crowned, new women's tag, new IC champion, new United States champion, but then the two world champions retain.
It's kind of why I did it, just because it's like
you'd expect other title changes at that point.
Yeah, you would expect, okay, it's Evolution, big title changes. You might not expect Stephanie to win, but then again, with Stephanie, it's like she can take credit for creating women's wrestling. So maybe she does win the women's title at Evolution.
I would say, like, the Stephanie and Becky one, I would have probably, like, focused on building Stephanie a group. They'd still be involved in the other matches on the show, but you should probably give Stephanie, like, an entourage of some of your other women.
Like Chelsea and Nia or something.
Yeah, something along those lines, like maybe 2 or 3 of them, just so it's realistic that she might have a chance against Becky.
Absolutely. I did, actually, when I mentioned Callie, I was thinking, like, do I have her in that kind of role where it's just like a heater? Because, you know, you don't really know what her strengths and weaknesses are just yet. But I did think about that myself. And if I wanted to, like, really flesh it out and do what I've done in the past with, like, backstage segments and stuff like that, I would have done something to that effect. So I think that's interesting that we're on the same page there. But that's my Evolution card. Again, an idea that I feel like I was too committed to by the time I started to feel like, oh, maybe this isn't the best thing. But I'm ultimately happy with how it turned out. There's a few matches on there that I wish were happening in real life that I would love to see.
I think it's good that you were able to get a whole card out of that too, because you did have more women's picks than I did. For instance, I wouldn't have the opportunity. I only had like 8 or so or women out. Like I would have ended up having like Sable versus Sherry, and like nobody would have wanted to watch that pay-per-view card. So I'd watch this. This would be some good stuff going on here.
But now we jump over to the men and the Night of Champions card. And this, and I had texted you guys this at like 2 a.m, where I'm like, I have people that are so strong that I feel like should be featured in one specific way. Like I gave the example of, I've got Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. Now that I'm thinking about it, should they have, like, do you just go, well, of course I booked this because they're Steamboat and Flair? And ultimately, I decided against that, but I did decide I'm going to build my King of the Ring around Ricky Steamboat, who competes in a semifinal match against Dax Harwood. Because I got Dax on his own, and I was like, he can have a great wrestling match with Ricky Steamboat. Not Tito Santana.
I don't know if there's anybody that I would have paired him off with to make a new team out of any kind of a group, but without having the other half of FTR, it is a little hard to, like, what do you do with Dax? I probably, if, at most, would pair him off with Zach Gibson, since he's missing his other half too, but
Yeah, and I didn't.
And
I
they're
didn't
both
see him
bald with
do that.
beards.
Yeah.
They're both bald with beards. I also thought about the big show for the reasons of bald with beard, which is ridiculous. But,
Oh, the Bald Street Crew. That was my thing a little while ago.
yeah, you did do that. Actually, speaking of bald, two other bald men, Cesaro and Tommaso Ciampa, were in the other King of the Ring semifinal, and Cesaro gets the win there. So it'll be later on in the card.
They need to be in a boiler room bald match.
I hate it.
The bald man buffet. There you go.
Hell in the Bald. No, that doesn't work.
Not a bald match here. Well,
Bald in the Cell. No.
actually, there is a bald man who will be winning, but there's WWE Hardcore Championship 4-way. Trust me, this isn't the match I would have went with, but I kind of got stuck, and I went with Rhino, Sid, Diesel, and Big Show in a hardcore match for the hardcore title.
Oh, that almost sounds like a big man buffet.
Not what I would have normally went with for these 4 individuals, but I decided to go with that here. I imagine you could have some fun spots. You know, maybe you get everybody's brawling backstage and stuff. Maybe you get something like Diesel actually behind the wheel of a truck. You know, Big Show can
have his gun.
throw random bystanders around. Maybe there's a scary spot where Sid grabs a pair of scissors. You know, I thought that would ultimately be the best way to do it, and in the end, Big Show will get the win because I believe Big Show, former ECW champion, I believe he's won the hardcore title as well. If not, he was in that tremendous hardcore title match. He was in that tremendous hardcore title match at WrestleMania 17 with Raven and Kane, and that was kind of the inspiration for this one here.
Oh wait, I got another one. You throw all the bald people together and you call it the Royal Rumbald.
That's your best one. We need to decap it there because it's not getting better.
Going back to the 4, I just thinking about considering the history of Diesel, Big Show, and Sid in terms of serious knee injuries.
Someone's getting hurt, yes.
Well, I was just gonna say this is like this is less a walk and brawl, it's more a stumble and brawl or limp and brawl, really.
Yeah, I thought about that as well because I was like, I'll let you guys in on this because, like, DDP's on this card. He's in the corner of Cody Rhodes. There was a moment where he almost wrestled for the WWE Championship. There was a moment where I went, do I pair him with Nash as the Insiders? I was like, because again, you have people and you're just like, okay, am I overcompensating and trying too hard not to do an obvious thing or trying to stand out? Or do I just fold and do the lame thing? So some of it was really difficult. I even thought about maybe putting Diesel in as a 4th with Evolution because of the ties to Triple H.
That makes sense. Like to replace Batista.
Yeah, and then
I had Batista on mine.
And then I went, nah, let's just put him in here. And I will say before I go on to this next 4-way, Bloodline. I have Roman, I have Rock, I have Jay and Jimmy. There was a moment where I was just like, do I do Evolution Bloodline? And then what do you do with the Rock? And I didn't want to do like Rock Cena. Yeah, there was so much of that while I was booking this card. One thing I didn't have any trouble with though was booking a WWE European Championship Fatal 4-way where Pete Dunne successfully retains this fictional version of the European Championship over Charlie Dempsey, Noam Dar, and Zach Gibson.
I see why it's the European title.
Yeah, you do. You
took me a second. I was like, wait, no, I'm darn. Okay.
Because I was gonna do maybe like a quick tournament of like Heritage Cup rules, and then I went, I'm doing King of the Ring. Let's not do that. I almost put Pete Dunne in King of the Ring because it should have been something. But I went with this here. I think it'd be fun. I'd love to watch it. You know, I'd like to see Pete Dunne back in that style of wrestling because he's doing fuck all on the main roster.
All 4 are talented. All 4 are fun. They are not like so significantly different from one another that it would be like, why is Rhino in that or something?
Dar and Dempsey, very goofy, but also very good in the ring. Like Dempsey's getting more goofy as the weeks go by. And this is a match I would actually like to see.
Yeah, I'd be down for
Dad
that.
in WWE. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Much like his dad in WWE.
Yeah. Another match I really want to see is a Christian defending the Intercontinental Championship in a scramble against John Morrison, Bobby Roode, Dolph Ziggler, and your eventual winner of the IC title, Finn Balor.
Good group.
And this one was kind of hard to miss. I did for a minute again think about, do I pair Ziggler with Roode? Do I try to do like Dirty Dogs against like the Insiders, or just do like a generic match like that? I ultimately decided I'm only gonna have one non-title match on this card, or like not for a title of some kind, and that's the match we'll talk about next. But I thought about putting Adam Cole in this match, making him the winner of the IC title, because I tend to do that in my fantasy booking, where Adam Cole, if I can't make him like top champ, I'm making him the IC champ. But I ultimately went, Finn Balor is a guy who should have done more. And I'm getting to that point of like, he's almost Ziggler in the real world, where it's like, he didn't do nearly as much as he should have. Actually, I guess the theme of this lineup is none of these guys did as much as I would have had them do in WWE, because I would have had Roode top of the card. I had Morrison, a stronger push back in 2009. Ziggler, we all know what I think about Ziggler. And Christian Cage was only ever given the world title because Edge had to retire. So, I wish these guys were doing a little bit more.
I like that type of group being mid-card champion level too, though, because it's like they're all people who either have or could win world titles. But if you only had one world champion, you would be like, all right, well, they're still the upper mid-card. Like, you're not going to pick for the world championship, more often than not, you're not going to pick somebody like Bobby Roode over The Rock or Cena.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I have 2 world championships on this card, and they're still upper mid-card. Next match is my only non-title match on the card. It's a 6-man tag. It's Evolution's Triple H, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton against the Undisputed Era. Largely because I was like, I have the 3 of the Undisputed Era. If I don't put them together and I put Adam Cole in a single, I'm going to force Undisputed Era into something else, and maybe the best idea is to put them as a trio. Once you get through that process, you start going, okay, who do you put them up against? And I wasn't going to entertain the Bloodline for them because, look, I love my Undisputed Era, but that's probably, a stretch even for them. I think Evolution, because of the connection with the group and Hunter, is good. I think Randy could have had a good match with any of them. Flair was almost the problem here, because I almost put Flair against John Cena for another championship. And I was like, you know what? If I do that, fucking Hunter and Orton get stuck without something, and then I'm going to end up doing something that's been done 1,000 times with them. And I just decided this would be the most fun, and Evolution wins because fantasy only goes so far. But I think it'd be a fun match.
I don't know. Of course, you never know what you're going to do unless you start working on the card. And when we come to mind, like I had different ideas at the beginning towards the end. I got a feeling I would definitely pair the Undisputed Era off together, because you have Bobby Fish, and like I would either do Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly are a tag team and Cole is separate, or it's all 3. I don't think I'd put him against Evolution, though. I think I probably, if I did a 6-man tag, I probably would have morphed some kind of like different group. Like it would have been like, maybe those 3 would have gone up against like Pete Dunne, Noam Dar, and Charlie Dempsey as like a UK group.
I almost did NXT versus ECW and had them beat Rhino and the Dudleys. I almost, and then I was like, well, if I'd gotten Spike, it would have been a 6-man tables match. But I ultimately decided to put the Dudley Boys as the tag team champions and have them defend in a 4-way TLC against the Usos, Hardy Boys, and the eventual winners, Praxium.
Oh, wow. Praxium wins. I thought you were going with Hardy Boys.
Well, yeah, because I thought about going with, honestly, all of them, but I ended up going, like, Praxium are just younger. Granted, we're fantasy, we're taking people at their peak, but, like, just, like, let's try to encourage the future, as I tend to try to do when I'm booking these things.
I mean, I'd say just from a pure in-ring perspective, I think Fraxium are the best team out of all of those four anyway, so I probably would have gone with them winning anyway.
And
So-
remember, the Usos were almost in a match with Evolution. They were almost in a War Games. If I could have found a fourth for Evolution,
So that's where I probably would have thrown Diesel in.
Yeah, that's what I almost did. And I was like, "That's your fucking shoehorning." Like, again, like as if it's not a total fucking fake card.
I mean, I find it quite interesting that you said that like it was a stretch to do the Bloodline versus Undisputed Era when like that's a more realistic match than Evolution versus the Undisputed Era.
I guess that's true. I guess I was just thinking like at least the connection with Hunter is there, and at least Randy Orton would probably have a great match with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and stuff like that might happen. Whereas, like, I don't know if I could see Roman Reigns in the ring with Adam Cole at the Bloodline level. You know what I mean?
You could see Triple H on the same level as Adam Cole.
I could see Triple H because they have that in my mind they have that bond of like I can see Triple H wanting to.
I just meant from a physical level because like
Triple
H looks like he could swallow Adam Cole pretty much.
Oh no! I wasn't talking about it from a physical level. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of ideas swirling through my mind. One that I immediately actually was the first thing I solidified on paper was United States Championship. Chad Gable defends and loses to Kurt Angle. This is
yeah.
this is like
I think almost any time that any of us gets Gable and Angle, it's like there's like a few people. It's like Gable, Angle, Gunther, Brett, Daniel Bryan, like where we kind of go like, all right, these guys they just hover around each other all the time.
It was like Gable. I almost thought about overdoing it, where you're like a submission match or 2 out of 3 falls match or something. But I was just like, it's gonna be a great match. Peak Angle versus Peak Gable, like you can't go wrong. And Kurt Angle wins because he should.
And it's US title, which makes sense for those two.
Yeah.
There's not El Grande Americano versus Kurt Angle.
I did think of it. I was like, do I do that? And I was like, nah. This is fucking Kurt Angle.
I mean, technically, could you have? Because did you land on Chad Gable for the Speed Championship?
I think I landed on Chad Gable for a tag team.
Yeah. I don't know why you would pair those two off. They're two different people.
Yeah, totally. It's Ludwig Kaiser under the Americano mask. WWE Championship, here's where we play around a little. It's Straight Edge Society CM Punk with Chavo Guerrero in his corner against and losing the championship to Eddie Guerrero. And again, like you get Eddie and you're like, he should be in the main event scene. Maybe he's wrestling for the IC title. He's so versatile. And then I'm like, I have Chavo. What do I do with Chavo? I think I drafted him specifically because I had Eddie. But then I decided you can tell a fun story about Eddie Guerrero being a liar, a cheater, and a stealer, his addiction issues, with Straight Edge Society CM Punk, who is holier than thou. You can have Chavo cut promos about how Eddie, because of his vices, was just never really a good family member. That was that story that I landed on, and then I decided that's the one you go with. I'm actually changing the name of this belt to world title because I forgot to change that for one of them. Again, fake card, not like it matters. But yeah, I think this would have been fun. I know they wrestled on the indies, but like peak CM Punk peak Guerrero, I think, would have been one of the better matches you could put in a WWE setting.
Those two,
And
if I get them on my cards, they almost always cross over, at least in like a potential option. Punk and Eddie is like, it just makes sense to me.
No, that's a great pairing because of, as I say, it leads so well into the reality story. It's pretty much, I think it's just an elevated version of the Punk Hardy feud.
yeah, which is exactly the vibe I was going for. And then we have my King of the Ring finals, and King Cesaro defeats Ricky Steamboat. What I can only imagine would be a special wrestling match. Like, these two are so good, and you go with Cesaro because he can play off the King idea, and it would just be tremendous. This was something, as soon as I said Ricky Steamboat King of the Ring, I said Cesaro's on the other side and he's winning.
I mean, it would definitely be a great match. I'm surprised that you've gone for him over Steamboat, but
I don't think babyfaces should like be king of the ring unless it's in the modern sense of, and you get the title shot at SummerSlam, so you're just, that's all you need. You know, otherwise, like, you know, Ricky Steamboat would be he's not going to really embrace the idea of king. It's just like he won a tournament, which is cool. But Cesaro, you can see
Wearing the crown and
wearing a crown and having a little coffee in his hand or something. I don't know. It'd be cool.
he becomes king of the ring and he gets coffee.
Well, what would you do? Like,
You know what I do. We've already talked about how if I become Supreme Chancellor of the universe.
These last two matches, the only thing I could say is I apologize. This is the part where my brain went, fuck it. Let's just do the obvious, and it's WWE Championship. John Cena loses to Cody Rhodes, who is DDP in his corner. I hated the match at WrestleMania. I really fought against doing it, but I was like, you're in a position where, again, am I going to put him against, put Cena against Punk? Don't really want to see that when that's a given. Hunter, Cena to death. Randy, Cena to death. I was like, okay, Cody just gets his win back. And I will say, though, I did consider John Cena Ric Flair as like the, you know, hey, you stole my record, you. And then there was John Cena DDP. DDP is a guy who has helped wrestlers out of their darkest places with the power of positivity. Literally, not like New Day. Like, and I thought that could pair well with heel Cena. And then I went, do I put DDP in the main event or one of the major matches of my card? And if so, what do I do with Cody? And that kind of left me going, all right, it's just going to be Cody Cena.
I can't believe you kind of went into it thinking that, okay, I need to make sure Cena's heel when we know Cena's really bad as a heel.
I didn't go into it with that idea, but once I got
your two options end up being Cena has to be heel against DDP or he has to be heel against Cody Rhodes.
No, once I got to the place where I had the rest of the card, I was like, oh shit, we're here. Like, I've in the past I've said I'd like to see Cena against Jeff Hardy, but I wasn't gonna have Matt, you know, floundering. Like, there were other options for sure. It's just once you kind of sort out all the puzzle pieces, it landed this way. And a lot of the reason for that is because I was just like, what? Again, maybe it's just because of personal fatigue, like in reality, but I was like, what the fuck do you do with Roman? Oh, I know. Like, I guess finally get that fucking Rock match out of the way.
When we, if we get the Roman and Rock match, it's gonna free us up from ever feeling like we need to put that on our fantasy booking stuff. Because once those things happen, we tend to go, okay, well, then we don't have to do it. If we could do Undertaker Sting, like, you know what I mean, or Roman Rock, would just be like, oh, good, it's out of the way, and it'll be terrible, you know, because now they waited 20 years past when they should add on it.
Oh yeah, it'll be a bad match now. The like
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure people will gas it up because they'll have like 10 people run in, but you know.
They'll stare at each other. People go nuts. But this like fantasy booking is, like we always fantasy book with the like in their primes in mind.
It's funny because like goes back to what I was saying about. Yeah, I got to a point where I'm like mixing and matching, and I'm going. If I pair The Rock with someone like, I couldn't pair him with Punk because we've seen it. I was like, how about Angle? And it's like, yeah, are you trying too hard not to just do The Rock and Roman? And then I was like, okay, fuck it. And in my world, final boss stuff, this is like, that doesn't happen. It's just The Rock beats Roman Reigns because Rock's babyface. He's the head of the table. That whole idea dies, even though we finally got to the point where it finally died in real life, but I think it took a little longer.
So you can see on your screen right now the card of both Night of Champions and Evolution that Rob has put together for anybody that's on YouTube, at least. That's the full lineup.
I don't think this was my strongest fantasy booking outing, but I also don't think it was the weakest.
No, definitely not the weakest. You got a good set of matches here. Like I think even the ones that are on the lower end, like realistically, like in ring, Cena and Cody, we've seen like that dynamic, and we've seen whatever here and there. But I think like overall, like I'd enjoy both of these cards.
Yeah, they would definitely be good shows to watch for the most part.
Thank you.
I would say my high and my low would probably be, if we're combining both things. My low would probably be either Undisputed Era Evolution, just because I feel like, okay, well, you put like Bobby Fish against like Ric Flair. I don't know how that dynamic really works. Or maybe, depending on how they pull it off, maybe the Ivory and Chelsea Green match. Just because it's like it is like semifinals match or something like that.
Yeah, actually, it's just a match to be a match.
Actually, probably would be Julia and Nia. I don't know how their dynamic would work. But my high, I mean, Rhea Ripley, Bianca, like you can't go wrong with those. Kurt Angle and Chad Gable would probably be the match that would steal the show.
Yeah, I think my peak is definitely Punk and Guerrero. It just works perfectly, and it would have been something that they definitely would have done had Eddie still been around at the point when Punk got his big push just with the straight edge society stuff. That would have been like the epitome of that gimmick. Would have been going for that match. Least favorite's probably Morgan, Natalia, and Bella, because Liv Morgan's the only one I like as a wrestler out of those three. So
I understand.
Alrighty, so swashing back to swashing back. That's not a word. It's a combination of it. Swapping back to the matchmaker graphic. Do you want to go, Callum, or do you want me to go?
I mean, I'm easy either way, but I'll take it then. Get my one out of the way.
Alrighty, so go for it when you want.
Okay, hope you're looking forward to 24 matches, because that's what I got between 2 nights. 12 matches on both cards, because there were just too many people, and I wasn't putting them in too many multi-man matches, so gonna mess around a bit. Okay, so got night 1 and night 2 of Night Champions, just went with the definitive thing, and each one has a kickoff show match, which is a tag team kind of showcase match, which would be between the quarterfinalists of both the King and Queen of the Ring. So night 1 is the King of the Ring quarterfinalists. So it is Booker T and Sheamus against Damian Priest and Ilya Dragunov. After Ilya Dragunov fell to Shinsuke Nakamura, Booker T fell to Chris Benoit, Damian Priest lost to Roddy Piper, and Sheamus lost to the British Bulldog. So they will be the matches to take place later on in the show in the semi-finals. And yeah, and it's just a case of just putting the 4 losers in a the heel and babyface dynamic. To have Booker T and Sheamus win, this would just set in motion a Sheamus and Ilya Dragunov feud for the future. Maybe something to do with Booker T and Damian Priest, but I'm less interested in that. But definitely get Sheamus and Dragunov interacting so they can do some stuff later down the line.
Again, I love that we always book with the future in mind.
You might as well.
Yeah.
You should always be booking, even if it's a non-existent like universe that you created here. Every match should have the outcome in mind, because otherwise,
Right.
what's the point? You could just say, "Oh, they're just the best one because they won." Then we get onto the main card, starting with the King of the Ring semi-final match between Chris Benoit and Roddy Piper, because that seems like it'll be a lot of fun. This is like full heel Roddy Piper. This is as babyface as you can get Chris Benoit. Benoit wins. I know people will be maybe a bit shocked about that because just Roddy Piper is a legend and Benoit's Benoit. But it's a case of, I thought I need to decide. It's up to me, and I know what the best King of the Ring final would be, and in terms of just match quality out of these two, and so Benoit has to get into the final.
I'm surprised you didn't go Dragunov. Benoit.
Dragunov's just too low down as this, but I would like to see that match at some point. But yeah, that's like I put him against Nakamura because I just thought that would just be a more hard hitting dynamic. Because they're more, I mean, Benoit's very like did a lot of strong style stuff as well, but I thought Nakamura is just more violent, and that would mesh well with Dragunov's violence. Then we have a Queen of the Ring semi-final immediately following that, which is Charlotte Flair over Mickie James. So I might as well say what the Queen of the Ring quarterfinals. So Charlotte had defeated Wendy Richter, Mickie James had defeated Nikki Cross. The other two that will be in the other semi-final, Trish Stratus defeated Paige and Stephanie Fouquet defeated Jacqueline.
Makes sense.
So Charlotte Flair and Mickie James didn't get to have a real kind of one-on-one match in their prime, because by the time Charlotte Flair came on the scene, Mickie was in the very much a veteran role whenever she was back in WWE. So put them in a higher level, have Charlotte Flair get the victory. Then we have our only real, one of the only real major, like, just throw guys in a ring. So, a bit of backstory for this. Well, I say a bit of backstory. I'll say what the matches first. The Hardcore Championship 6-man scramble match. And this is the type
something I do.
Yeah, this is the type of scramble match where it's like, gonna go 15-minute time limit on the match. Whoever's got scores the last pinfall is the champion. So, it's Hardcore Champion The Miz defending against R-Truth, Tommy Dreamer, Mark Coffey, Mike Awesome, and Bob Backlund.
That's a group.
So my logic for this is like, I'm going back to like Hollywood A-list Miz and that gimmick where he never wanted to get hit in the face, and it just leads into a scenario where he gets paired up in a feud with like the former Hardcore Champion Tommy Dreamer, and it's like, okay, he fights him for the Hardcore title, he wins it, but now he's defending that title 24/7, and he's trying to protect his face at the same time. Twins are getting thrown into a match with his some of his closest challengers, like Truth and Dreamer, both babyfaces going into this one, and it's just a case of watching him in a hardcore setting, trying to keep hold of his title, like trying to sneak pinfalls whenever he possibly can off other people's hard work, but then also try and make sure that he doesn't get hit in the face with any weapons. So it's pretty much everyone else is fighting and beating the crap out of each other, and he's just trying to avoid every scenario that he possibly can, hide under the ring, hide in the crowd, hide by the announce table, and just sneak in the ring to get pinfalls when other people were distracted. And then he ends up retaining, he sneaks a pin right at the end, so he retains the title, continues this like hardcore title reign.
You know, I'd happen with that.
Yeah. I wasn't putting Miz in any other higher position. He's definitely on the lowest totem pole. So, United States Championship submission match. Daniel Bryan defends against Dean Malenko.
Yep.
Because just
these
two guys.
Because
I was thinking of lots of different things for different people. I originally had Dean Malenko in some kind of cruiserweight match, but then I just saw those two and thought, oh yeah, they'll have a great technical match. So just have them go for the United States title instead. Bryan retains. We're all good.
That's literally like shot for shot what I was thinking with United States title Angle Gable. Like it's the same thing where it's like, yeah, Kurt Angle could be a world champion, so could Daniel Bryan, but we'll just have him do this really fun wrestling match instead.
It's funny when we get to mine, we're gonna have another one of those. Yeah, of course, you just paired those two up and just said they'll just have a good match for this championship. So we're gonna come back all three.
Okay, now we have the men's tag team championships. Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner defend the titles against Mustache Mountain, Air Boom, and two members of my Hurt Business / Syndicate mega group, MVP and Shelton Benjamin.
I see you've decided not to go with Lashley.
Well, he's not. He'll be on later on. He is part of the. I have the Hurt Syndicate, or Hurt Business, however you want to refer to them. I guess it should be Hurt Business because it's WWE. Stable in my universe consists of Lashley as the big figurehead guy, MVP as the brains behind the operation, Shelton Benjamin as the enforcer type wrestler, Leo Rush, your cruiserweight, smaller, like punky guy, Mark Henry, another enforcer player. I mean, his biggest gimmick was Hall of Pain. He has to be in the Hurt Business. And they are merged with Monet Inc. of so the women's contingent of the Hurt Business, which is Sasha Banks, Jazz, and Shayna Baszler.
I understand.
Huh.
There's a lot of thought went into that. I thought you had maybe just saved Lashley for killing Hulk Hogan later down your card, but
No, I have someone else. Well, we'll get to that, but you're not too far off. But they are the they're like the tag team contingent of this one. Them against Mustache Mountain, the Steiner Brothers, and Air Boom. Thought just be they're my kind of more natural tag team. So I thought let's put them all together and just have them in a good match. Have the Steiner Brothers retaining their championship. But they'll be heels going into it because I think that Mustache Mountain and Air Boom are just more naturally baby faces and trying to even it up to they're on the heel side of things.
That makes sense.
Yeah. King of the Ring semi-final, Shinsuke Nakamura defeats the British Bulldog to advance to the final.
That would have been a match.
I think it would have been quite interesting because Bulldog would be like all power and Nakamura would be trying to. Obviously, he's strong in his own right. Would be doing a lot of like more striking, whereas Bulldog's just trying to grab hold of him and slam him down as many times as he could. But yeah, I'll have Nakamura get the victory because I just think that him and Benoit would have been a much better overall match. Not that Bulldog and Benoit would be bad either, but yeah, that was just my way of thinking. And then your Queen of the Ring semi-final, your second semi-final, is Trish Stratus defeats Stephanie Becker.
Boo. Like better.
Oh yeah, I probably like Stephanie better as well, but Trish is a bigger name. Her against Charlotte makes a lot of sense for a Queen of the Ring final. Then this is just like, Stephanie's more fresh face. She's done well to make it to the semi-final, but she just gets beaten by the bigger name. But it shows enough, because they're both baby faces going into it. So she shows enough fight that she earns Stratus's respect and helps set her on a trajectory to bigger and better things in the future.
Good old Stephanie back way. Yeah.
Then I have one of my few non-title matches outside of like tournament and championship matches. So this is what I've called an Iron Slam match, which is the rule is it's a 15-minute time limit, and it's the person that hits the most slams on their opponent wins.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, and it's Hulk Hogan versus Mark Henry.
There it is.
I like it even better now.
Yeah. Essentially, it's the idea of you kind of build it up quite a bit of like the whole story leading up to it is just like Henry's been slamming Hogan all over the place, and Hogan hasn't had an opportunity. Every time he's tried to get Henry up, he just like gets either the Hurt Business comes in and interrupts things, or Henry's just able to overpower him and get out of it. So you start the match and you have like Henry get a cup, maybe 2 or 3 slams on Hogan early on, just to establish his dominance as the monster heel. But then you have the big Hogan comeback, the finger in the face, big boot, all that other stuff. He hits the leg drop, but then he realizes, oh god, he's dead in the ring, and I need to slam this guy. So it's almost like sees the minutes counting down. He manages to get him up. He slams him once, and the crowd goes crazy. He's got the first time, and then basically right towards the end, almost like the final 2 minutes or so, he gets him up once, and the crowd goes crazy. But he's having to haul him up each time, just insert more and more energy, and then he gets Henry up again. And then there's literally like 30 seconds left on the clock, and he's getting him up, trying to get him up again for another scoop slam. Henry's trying to fight it, but he gets him up. But then MVP trips him at the legs from the outside. Henry falls on top of Hogan, and so Henry ends up winning 3-2.
I like that.
Yeah. And then you can build up to like a rematch, like SummerSlam or something like that, where Hogan does get the victory, but that's just to help extend this feud along. Also, of course, Hogan would be feuding with the Black Stable. So
I'm glad you went with Henry winning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was always going to do that, yeah. Okay, another match that was pretty much a no-brainer as soon as I drafted them. WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, Gunther versus Samoa Joe.
Yep.
Yeah. Literal, like, in-ring murder in the most physical sense possible. Gunther's champion, Samoa Joe's challenger. Gunther retains. But we're all winners, really, because those guys would just beat the shit out of each other for half an hour, and we'd have a lot of fun with it.
There's almost no way that's not going to be my high out of your card.
Yeah. There's the first 2 people I drafted, so like immediately said, oh yeah, that's my match. I didn't really even consider any other opportunities for Gunther or Samoa Joe. Not they weren't definitely a lot of good options for either of them. I just thought, yeah, but that's just basically Gunther against like the guy that Gunther's almost modelled on in terms of a wrestler. And then your main event, your WWE Women's Championship match, Sasha Banks defends against Io Sky and Lita in a triple threat. I thought these ones they worked the best stylistically in terms of being like kind of more high flying, more I guess I don't know how I would describe it. They're versatile, they're risk takers, that kind of dynamic. I thought they would pair together well. Sasha's the only heel in it. Io and Lita are both baby faces, but obviously they'll take shots at each other. And then Banks ends up retaining the title. But I think, even though like Lita's not my favourite in terms of women's wrestlers, I thought that she had the best. She would have the best dynamic with those two in a main event. And I had to have like at least one like triple threat match because I had a number of women that I drafted. So
yeah, unless you would have put somebody as like a manager or something, but then that's waste.
Yeah, but I don't do that. I don't do that stuff. Okay,
yeah,
so that's
be
night
fun.
1. Yeah, that's night 1.
Night 1.
Night 2 have the other women's version of the tag team showcase match for the Queen of the Ring quarterfinalists. So it's Wendy Richter and Nikki Cross defeating Paige and Jacqueline. This would set up a Wendy Richter and Paige feud moving forward about having the super all-American girl against the gothy and anti-diva Brit and Paige. And then Nikki Cross and Jacqueline would just be, those two are kind of like, I originally had them notes down before I started thinking about doing a Queen of the Ring thing. I had them down as a women's hardcore championship match. So, but then I decided, because I originally was thinking of doing women's mid-card titles and other stuff like that. But then when I had the Queen of the Ring, I thought, okay, I'll just put them in there and then they'll pair off with each other because I think they'd work quite well as the Jacqueline's obviously very hard hitting and Nikki Cross is unhinged. So I thought they would work well together. Then we get onto the main card with your first match, which is the Immovable versus the Unstoppable versus the Almighty.
Well, I know 2 of the 3.
So it's Andre the Giant versus Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg. Because I originally had Andre versus Goldberg in a one-on-one match, but then I realised, oh yeah, that's only really good for 4 minutes. So how can we extend it to maybe get to the 10 mark? I thought, okay, we'll just add Bobby Lashley into it, because then they can all do stuff for a while. Then you can have a little moment of Andre and Bobby teaming up to take down Goldberg, hold him down for a bit. You can have singles pairs off between the guys for a couple of minutes before it got a little bit, boring. And Goldberg eventually wins by spearing Andre, hitting Andre with the jackhammer, if that's at all possible. But in my fantasy world, it is entirely possible.
He did it to the Giant, so
The Giant
back
was a lot thinner than Andre was.
Yeah, but I mean, like at one point, he was able to pick up pretty big guys.
Yeah. I guess
He's not picking up Gunther now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'll be fun if he tries to do that. But yeah, that's you get your fun like Goldberg, Spear, and Jack Hammer spot, which is all you really want from this one. But it's just 3 big guys doing the big mean guy match. Women's Tag Team Championship: Shayna Baszler and Jazz as your champions against AJ Lee and Bayley, or BJ Lee.
Yep.
BJ Lee. It makes sense.
Yeah. I just thought that like it would be like mentor and student thing with AJ Bailey. I don't want to make Bailey, I don't want to make her full blown hugger Bailey because it's a very one note character. But have her be a bit more on the babyface leaning side, maybe a bit more naive, younger compared to the more veteran AJ Lee. And Jazz and Shayna Baszler would be an ass kicking women's tag team, and this would be AJ and Bailey winning the tag titles, defeating the kind of like bullier characters.
I'm down for it.
WWE Television Championship ladder match. Because I needed to introduce another title for this.
Ooh, TV title.
Yeah. This is Rob Van Dam defending against Swerve Scott. I'm not calling him Isaiah, I'm calling him Swerve. And yeah, I just thought these two are very unique in their offense, very dynamic. They're kind of like innovators of their eras, really. So I thought they would pair well together as doing a ladder match. And yeah, just have Swerve win the title from RVD.
I think that they would work really well together. That makes sense. And they're big enough names that, they could have been thrown in some kind of a multi-man match, but at the same time, they can stand on their own with their like mid-card title.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw too many people in mid-card matches, so I thought that they would have their own little, even though it's like a lower grade title. I didn't want to. I could have put like European Championship here instead of Television Championship. It's basically the equivalent, really. But neither guys are European, and I didn't really feel comfortable making the European Championship for this one. Then we have the Cruiserweight Championship double eliminator match, which is based on the inaugural match for the X Division Championship, where it was a fatal 4-way where they kind of only wrestled singles matches, and you had to somebody had to be pinned twice to get eliminated. So basically that, with Johnny Gargano as champion, Adrian Neville, Dragon Lee, and Lio Rush.
It's a good group.
Yep, 4 fun guys doing the flippy doos. But it would be like singles thing, so you maybe start off with Gargano and Lio Rush. Whoever loses the pin there has one more opportunity. Essentially, it'd just be like that until one guy's left standing after everyone else has been pinned at least twice. And I'd have Neville get the victory, beat Johnny Gargano at the end. Basically, they're both on 1 fall each, and so the last person to get the win gets the win, and in this case would be Neville. Next is an Infernal Casket match.
So
essentially, a casket.
Put him in the casket and then light him on fire.
Yep. that is the idea.
Do you have to nail the casket down too?
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, you have to pour gasoline over the top of it and then throw it in a ditch, and then you're done. So
and the casket's made out of barbed wire.
Like, it was originally my fault for this one because it's the Undertaker versus Drew McIntyre. And my original thought for this one is actually casket versus ambulance match. Essentially, it'd be Undertaker wins if he puts McIntyre in a casket, and McIntyre wins if he puts Undertaker in an ambulance. But then I thought, well, the casket's just way more like severe than the ambulance, so why wouldn't McIntyre just want to put Undertaker in the casket? So I thought, okay, he's putting in the casket, but the idea is you put him in the casket and then you get to set your opponent on fire.
That's very old school Undertaker. I like it a lot.
Yeah. And as you would expect then, Undertaker loses to Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, because he always does.
Because this is what you do. You set him on fire, he seemingly dies, and then he comes back a few months later and he beats Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
That's the story.
100%.
Yeah.
That is what they do.
That's 93.
Yeah. That's the best version of the Undertaker. So this is what we'll do. Okay, so that'll be just a fun hard hitting big guy match. Intercontinental Championship match, Chris Jericho defends against AJ Styles. Yes, they have feuded against each other. No, they did not feud against each other in their prime. So this is them in their prime. And Jericho goes in as champion. AJ Styles wins the title. Just just put these two against each other. It's going to be a great match. Just enjoy it.
Yep.
I like it.
Right, and then we go into our four main events. And pure old WWE is like, wow, there are 4 main events on this show, but there's actually only one. But we'll go with it. So we got Queen of the Ring final, Charlotte Flair against Trish Stratus. Charlotte wins because she's the queen, and so it only makes sense that she wins Queen of the Ring. In my iteration, these are tournaments where you just win and you get a title shot. She's not going to be Queen Charlotte. She's just won Queen of the Ring. And then your King of the Ring final, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Chris Benoit. Really hard-hitting, New Japan-style match, and Nakamura wins. So he gets the next title shot as well. I'd probably put him against Gunther, and I'd probably put Charlotte against the person that wins the other title match that I'll get to in a minute. Because just for the sake of their alignments. Because then we have the WWE Women's World Championship match, which is Gail Kim defending against Ember Moon. Or Athena, as I would call her. But it's Ember Moon for the sake of the WWE side of things. And it would just be, we know how good Athena is nowadays. We know how good Gail Kim is outside of WWE. It's basically a match between 2 women that are way better outside of WWE than in WWE. And Ember Moon wins the title. And so she would end up facing Charlotte Flair. Probably have a transitional reign then, because probably at the next show she'd lose it to Charlotte because that's the way it works, but still be a nice moment for her to win the title. And then your final match is your WWE Championship Texas Death Match. Steve Austin against Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. So as I say, violence, weapons, blood, everything all over the place. And if you would have noticed or keep score, every single championship has changed hands on the second night after no championships changed hands on the first night. And so my idea for that one is just you're leading to thinking, oh my god, they're doing a clean sweep after not having any titles change hands on the first night, so is Dean Ambrose actually going to win the title here? But Austin retains because he is Austin, and I think that Ambrose would take the loss well, and it would help build him up further for another opportunity down the line. But right now, Austin just stays on top as champion. And the Texas Death Match works for both of them because of just Ambrose's background and the fact that Austin is from Texas. So
and between the two of them, which was the one that would take the biggest fall or the biggest most brutal thing,
Ambrose,
it would 100% be Ambrose. He'd be like, no, can I be the one that does that and lose?
I think it's the idea that we've seen in matches where he'll take a nail covered bat to the back. So probably in this one he'd probably actually be eaten by a rattlesnake. So but that's those are my cards.
A lot of highs on there that I like. Gunther, Joe, Austin, Ambrose, Taker, McIntyre. I like the idea of the Hogan Henry Slam thing. I think that's an innovative way of
trying to make
doing something I'd say my low is probably the tag team showcase matches, but then again, that's just because they're kickoff tag team matches.
Yeah, that's absolutely. They're just there as facilitators for the King and Queen of the Ring quarterfinals. I could have probably done something more innovative. I probably would have ended up with just singles matches between Booker and Damian Priest and Sheamus Dragunov, and then Victor Page and Cross and Jacqueline as well. But yeah, I know they weren't the most thrilling matches, but that's why they're on the kickoff to hide them a little bit.
I like that you're always able to get the best out of your guys, no matter what is going on. You manage to get the best out of even a Bulldog or a Leo Rush. You always put forth the best, and you really maximize the fantasy effort.
It's card building. Card building's easy, really. But it's as I drafted good people. It was easy enough to put them into the slots that I wanted to. I didn't get one outside of Mark Coffey. I don't think I got anyone that was like super unhappy. And the Miz, obviously, I hate the Miz, but like, but like, I didn't have anyone that I was super unhappy to have on my team. So yeah, just hired Coffey and Miz in a hardcore scramble match, and then you're kind of good to go. Really, it was a hard one though. It was quite tricky to like. You kind of have to just throw a couple of matches together and then just like hope the rest kind of falls in place after a while. Because for like a good, like solid hour at the start of it, I was kind of just going around in circles with some people.
Yeah, all three of us kind of struggled a little bit on this. I guess because we all had too many good people, and that we didn't want to waste them. Where if we would have had, some of the fantasy booking we've had in the past, where it's like, oh God, what do I do with Jacob Blue? Then you're like, when we do it with
the worst people, you're almost backed into a corner where you start thinking a little bit more. Whereas this one, it's almost just the opposite. You have too many good people, so you can put anyone with anyone, and so you just go around in circles with a lot of choices.
Yeah, it's like an embarrassment of riches. And then you have some people that you're like, I don't really want to do anything with them, so then they get tossed in smaller spots. But yeah, very good.
Very good.
I am going to swash, as I said before, back over to my.
And by the way, I would say the peak matches for me would be your 2 men's championships, Austin Ambrose, because even though it's been 10 years now, that podcast they did was a huge deal. Where Austin was basically like, "Yeah, I kind of don't fucking think you want it," and everything Moxley's done since. And Gunther Samoa Joe is Gunther and Samoa Joe. So those are my favorites.
If there's one match that they could still do today that I'd want to see, Gunther and Samoa Joe is like right up there in terms of even now, even though because it wouldn't be them at their peak. It's like I still am desperate to see that match in some. I don't care if it happens in WWE or in AEW, happen in like the back in like a parking lot somewhere. I don't really care. It's like I need to see that match at some point.
Listen, they might be hobbled, but they could do Mark Henry and Hulk Hogan and then slam him 45 times match.
Yeah, I doubt the Hogan would be able to lift Mark Henry at that point, but we'll see.
And especially after the news this week where people were saying that he was dead.
Yeah, because Bubba Love Sponge is a reliable source.
Maybe that's how it happened. I don't know.
I don't know if him being dead would make him more or less realistic of him slamming Mark Henry at this point.
Is it easier for Mark Henry that he sandbags him? All right, so let's bounce back to my setup. I did not do a King and Queen of the Ring like you two did.
Oh wow!
I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I probably could just say, change this and make it for that, and there you go. But I ended up giving other kind of belts and stuff. So no Night of Champions / Evolution, no King and Queen of the Ring. But I did add some other different titles into the mix and all. 2-night card again, as per usual with this group of people. Start off with a singles match between Braun Breaker and Double J Jeff Jarrett with Deborah by his side, because I was not going to book Deborah into a match. She was not really a wrestler, and that wouldn't have worked out. So it was either do something like an old school misogynistic, like a bikini showcase thing or something like that they used to do, or just make her a manager. And she's a much better manager, and I wanted to just kind of keep some managers going on here. But I
would argue she's a much better bikini model than a manager.
True. That is true. I can't disagree with that. But I also figured, and this is kind of one of those things, that this was not my game plan at first, because originally I was like, okay, who do I pair off? I mostly went through this and went, who can I pair off with who? And then I made multiple lists. So it was like, all right, who would work with Brock Lesnar? Okay, Brock could go with Jacob Fatu. Brock could go with Bray Wyatt. Brock could go with, whatever. And I kind of went through and cross-referenced a lot of things. And eventually I just got to the point where I was just like, I kind of feel like Braun Breaker and Jeff Jarrett could work well together. And I wasn't going to do something super prominent with Jeff. And Breaker ended up just being somebody that fell further down the card, that's how you started to put some other people into the mix. Then I realized afterward, if I have Deborah by Jarrett's side, and there's the whole thing with Braun Breaker and the dogs are barking, and the puppies, it kind of writes itself a little bit.
Okay.
Holy fuck, that is the biggest. That's the longest way around, just to go, haha, I still got the puppies in there.
Yep. So I didn't write it down, but I added it
Deborah has the
into
biggest.
I wrote this down as the puppy bowl, like whatever you want to call it.
Jesus fucking Christ, dirty.
And of course, it ends after Jeff Jarrett does a bunch of stuff where he's working on Breaker's legs and trying to get the figure four and everything like that. Breaker eventually spears the hell out of him, and he's the babyface. He wins. You start off with an energetic "fuck you" to the douchebag heel, and this is Double J Jeff Jarrett, my favorite version of Jeff Jarrett. This is babyface Braun Breaker, where everybody wants to see him run around the ring and just go crazy.
That's double B Braun Breaker.
Double B gets Double J. Didn't even think about that, but there you go. It's another thing. Look, it writes itself.
And then Deborah's got the double D.
Double D.
Just writes itself.
Double B, Double J, and Double D's. Then we have a tag team match between a babyface bloodline of Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Kind of seems odd, but Solo has been a lot of fun.
So they love each other in this instance, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they totally do.
Yeah.
They, you figure like the way that the best friends would have their moment where they do the zoom in or the zoom out and the hug. It's just you get a hot tag and I love you, Solo. But Solo's fun. He's funny now. Like they're giving him more personality, so he could be kind of the funnier one of the two. And then Fatu's the more serious, but like that's almost kind of funny for that reason. And they're up against the tag team of Karrion Kross and Raven that I've named Crow with a K. Karrion Crow is a type of a crow. Raven's flock, birds of prey. There's lots of like Kross has that Crow at the beginning of his Titantron. Raven, of course, has his fucking name Raven. So, two culty type grungy dudes. They're definitely the heels here, and I give the win to Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. And I think that all four of these actually could have a fun match together, all things considered. And they wouldn't have been super high on my card. Like I'm not going to put like Raven in the world title match, for instance.
I like the pairing. I like the team of Kross and Raven. I think it works really well. I'd almost have it like could have Raven be around for a little while, and Kross comes in as his like
protege,
top disciple. His protege, top disciple, that kind of thing.
I give a lot of consideration to Kross, Raven, Wyatt, Mankind, Aleister Black, Al Snow, all like grouped together, either against each other or in some kind of like massive cult thing. And eventually it was like, I don't know who I would pair these people up with, because it was like, there's too many people that those are two big names. So then I didn't want to do, why are there two cult groups against each other? Or like what makes Kross, Raven, and blank against, I probably wouldn't Kross, Raven, and Al Snow against Aleister Black, Mankind, and Bray Wyatt. It would have been like, well, why are they all paired up? So it didn't work out like that. I ended up splitting things up a little bit. But the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, Kross and Raven as Crow, I liked it a lot. And that ended up being one of the few things that like I settled pretty quickly on, all things considered. Then we have, I don't know what you would call it. I was going to go in one direction, didn't go in another one. You could even call this the Queen of the Ring if you want to do that, but a women's mid-card championship, essentially. Call it the IC title, call it the Queen's Crown, call it the Divas Championship. Alundra Blaze, babyface, against Tiffany Stratton, heel champion going in. Tiffany Stratton beats Alundra Blaze. But you got your Breaker Jarrett match starts you off, then you go to a tag team match, and then you go to a women's match. Kind of building a little bit towards a bigger main event, but not doing too much of like the lower end. There's a certainly lower match that's a bathroom break. I think Blaze and Stratton would work.
Yeah, I think it would work.
And of course, between the two, Blaze is the babyface and Stratton's the heel. Like, no chance whatsoever that it was going to be the opposite way around. Medusa, you know, you could go in that direction. You could go babyface Tiffany, but I don't like that in comparison. Cruiserweight Championship triple threat match: Carmelo Hayes heel, Rey Mysterio babyface, Ricochet tweener, and the champion. More and more as he's been doing this stuff in AEW, the more I'm like, I kind of like heel Ricochet. So I think this would be sort of a mix between like Melo is definitely the heel, Rey is definitely babyface because there's no comparison, and Ricochet is sort of like he's dodging between the lines, and that's all the more reason why he retains his title, because you would think that he would be pairing off a little bit with Rey against Melo. You'd think that maybe there's some opportunities for him to tag with Melo against Rey, and eventually he just does some kind of like underhanded. Maybe Hayes is going to get pinned by Rey, and he shoves Rey out of the way and pins Melo or something, where you're just kind of like, that tweener kind of asshole's a little bit more of a heel now. I think Hayes, Rey, and Ricochet, those three flipping around, can't see a reason why that wouldn't be great.
Oh yeah, that's a great match between those three. Obviously, and let's see a Rey Mysterio on his prime against the Ricochet on his prime on his own would be great. Just add Carmelo. I think it helps. It helps, not hinders. But even though I would eventually like to just see a one-on-one Ricochet Rey Mysterio, but this is it's a very good match though.
And we got something that I don't think I've ever done before. I'm creating something called the XL Championship, which is essentially for anybody who is like the big and tall sections. Like, it's not a super heavyweight belt where you have to be, 300 pounds plus, but you can be. It's not just that you have to be 7 foot tall, but you can be. So somebody like an Omos could be in here, but also somebody who's on the taller side that's not 300 pounds, like a Dijak could be in there or something. It's essentially called the XL Championship, but I'm calling it the Big Man Belt for obvious reasons. And that's Keith Lee as a babyface going in as champion and losing to a heel Obafemi.
Yeah, I mean, two big dudes slapping meat. This is the meat match.
Two big athletic guys too, that like you would start off and be like, all right, this is going to be like the lumbering giants, and then they're both able to do shit where you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting them to flip around and all, because Obafemi is basically in that Keith Lee spot right now for me, where like he works with smaller guys, he works with big guys. His match with Jasper Troy was just as good, if not better, than against like a Trick. So I'm like, I'd like to see what these two do against each other. Two parallels.
Did you at any point toy with the idea of calling it the BBC Championship?
No, I didn't.
There's a trick there. Especially with Keith Lee, because he's gonna... No.
I should have just edged it. I should have had
him against Edge. Yeah, him against Edge, yeah.
That would have been great. Maybe if I would have had Lita and Mia Yim, maybe I would have done something with that then.
Yeah.
But the XL Championship. I think I might carry on the XL Championship going forward. I liked that idea the more and more that I could see that. So at this point, we've had a cruiserweight triple threat. We've had a women's match for a mid-card title. We have had a tag match between, two different like factions. This like regular singles Breaker and Jarrett match, and we had the two big men against each other. We need a little bit of a break. So we have a 6-man tag team match. The Family against the Filthy Animals. So the Family is led by the Don, Tony D'Angelo. You've got the Mouth, Enzo Amore, and you've got the Muscle, Johnny Stamboli. Against the Filthy Animals, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, El Hijo del Fantasma, Santos Escobar, and Bad Lucha Thing, Kalisto, because those are the heels.
That's get out.
Kalisto as a heel is like, oh man, I'm gonna get you with the bad lucha thing.
This podcast is over. Get out.
I thought of, obviously, of having some babyface things like that. I thought about having like Dom and Santos against Kalisto and Ray. I thought about pairing off Dom in a singles match for a championship against somebody that would be like a fun, where he's like the Weasel against like a Razor Ramon. Dom against Razor was something I was really thinking about because I was like, those two would have fun together. But the more I thought about it, I was just like, well, I got to put Tony D, Enzo, and Stamboli together, no matter what. And then I needed to figure out who can be 3 people to pair off against them. Started a little bit to be them against another group that I'll mention, but then I couldn't think of a third person. So it all worked itself out like this. Tony D and Enzo are having some issues, and that leads to the end with Dirty Dom and Santos and Kalisto being able to beat them.
Yeah, see, this is what you bring to the table that me and Rob just can't do. It's like you just do this like this weird like lower mid card just trios match, which just of just load of gimmicks thrown into a ring and just go, oh yeah, this is funny. This makes me laugh, and so I'm just going to do it.
Yep.
And because I bring Rob brings the mix between like the Evolution Night Champions, like a concentration on the women's side of things, a stronger concentration on the women's side of things, and Rob
tends to do a lot of like, okay, I'm going to do like a very tag team heavy card, like a central theme. Yeah,
I bring pure competence to this. Like I treat it like it's my job. I treat it like this is actually happening at any point. And
like you're running a sports league.
Yeah, like I literally just want to have like, this is the best, literally put it in a supercomputer. This is the best matches that you could possibly put together out of this. And I don't care about having fun. But like my fun is the competence. And then you're just going,
and I don't care about having fun. Quote that as a Callaway.
and you look like and you put a card together almost as if like you did it upside down in your underpants. Like that's kind of.
I go, what's the stupid idea I can do with this? Yeah. How do I get Deborah and Braun Breaker and Jeff Jarrett?
Like, did you have an edible before this?
No.
Okay.
Oh God! Imagine if that would have happened.
Yeah, I don't think he could do it because he'd get halfway through and just start going, "Whoops, there goes," and I can't think straight anymore.
We'll see. Well, that might have to be a thing at some point.
So God, looking high. That'd be great.
I got to have Mojo Rawley on that card and Matt Riddle and RVD. Mm. But yeah, the Don, the Mouth, and the Muscle against Bad Lucha Thing, Phantasma, and Dirty. I kind of looked at it a little bit as well too. It's like Dirty Dom is clearly like the leader. Tony D is the leader of his group. Santos is sort of like the hitman, hence the El Hijo del Fantasma thing. And then that sort of balances out the Johnny Stamboli as the Muscle a little bit. And then Enzo is like the little runt that's like trying to take over, and Kalisto's the short Bad Lucha Thing. Like he's the little Joe Pesci type. So we have a little bit of fun. We do some like gimmicky, stupid little silly stuff there. But then we have what I'm calling the Brawl for All, just legitimate fight. Fuck the idea of booking fake fights. I want to see these two actually fight. Brock Lesnar accompanied with Sable against Heko.
Yep. I guess you go from like the kind of worked murder match of Joe and Gunther into one of these guys will die in this match.
Yep. So much so that I didn't even pick a winner because I was like, I don't know who would win. Does Brock win like in a submission, or does Haku just like not get taken down, or
Are you legitimately saying that you'd pay these men at their peak and say, listen, go out there and fight, and whoever backs down, backs down?
Yes.
Okay.
It would just be, I will cover the costs of whatever medical bills that you have, but I want
cover
you
the funeral bills.
Yeah. I want the person that people say is like a tank that you would pick to stand by you that more than anything. And the guy that people are like, well, I wouldn't mess with that guy. Like,
You
Mark
should start the
Romero.
match with like these two. It'd be a triple threat between these two and a tank, and then they both look at the tank, and then the tank just rolls out of the arena because it's too scared to fight it.
Where it's the that like the little interstitial things in Street Fighter where you beat up the car or the brick wall or whatever. Like the two of them beat up a tank, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna fight each other. Haku versus Brock Lesnar. The more and more that I had lists of people, and I thought about like Haku in like a bloodline thing too, because you could do like Fatu, Sikoa, Haku, Yokozuna, Rikishi, and again I was like, well then who would conceivably go up against that group? And that originally was at one point Fatu, Sikoa, Haku, Rikishi, and Yoko against the big Karrion Kross, Raven, Bray Wyatt, Mankind, and Aleister Black and Al Snow thing. But then that just, the numbers didn't work out. And I wasn't going to be like, all right, well, do I throw Sami Zayn in there for like an honorary use? Or, then it all sort of fell apart. And then when I saw Brock against Haku, I was like, all right, well, I just don't even want those two to fight in like a fake match. I just want to see them beat the shit out of each other. So you need a little break after that. So you go Al Snow versus Aleister Black. And they're not paired up just because they're Al and Al. That just happened. But I think it's more so paired off. Al Snow is a heel. He's an annoying nuisance. And he's got head with him. And Aleister Black is going to kick his head off.
Yeah, things are a little bit of a nosedive here, but
you go from the Brock thing to like you need a bathroom break. This is more of a bathroom break.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, I mean, you literally saw someone die in the ring. So next thing, so almost like bringing out Al Snow after a literal death in the ring. It almost makes you feel like the death wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's a little safer
because now you have to watch Al Snow.
And then there's an Intercontinental Championship match. Rated R Superstar Edge as champion, heel. I always like heel Edge better against Razor Ramon. I feel like those two would work really well together. I feel like that feud would make a lot of sense. Edge is old school enough that Razor works really well. Because another issue that I had was when I was trying to figure out people with like Braun Breaker. If you put Braun against a lot of people from a different era, he's going to make him look bad. He's just too fast. So Braun against like, say, let's, I don't know, like I haven't talked about him yet, but like Braun against Randy Savage, I feel like it might make Savage look slow. And I had Braun Breaker against Razor Ramon at one point. That's one of the options. I had Braun Breaker against Edge at one point. The more that I kind of wasn't sure what to do with certain people, the more that I kept putting Edge and Razor together. Then I was like, no, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And not intentional, but the whole Razor's Edge thing was not a plan. It was just afterward. I was like, oh, okay, Razor's Edge. That's kind of funny. But I think that a heel Edge against a babyface Razor Ramon would work really, really well together. Right now I have Razor winning, but it could go either way. I think that there's definitely a chance that Edge would win that.
That's a match I'd watch.
I figured it would appeal more to you than some of the other matches.
Yeah, I think it's still be a good match. It's not like my absolute favorite so far, but it's like, yeah, it works well.
We have the Women's Universal Championship. I'm going with Universal being the name of the top title because it's the WWE Universe, and I don't have two world titles. So, Women's Universal Championship. Beth Phoenix going in as champion and retaining over China.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
It's a match that would have happened.
Yeah, that's some muscle mummy action there.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if I'd have which one be heel, which one be face. Kind of depends, I guess, on which type of character you always preferred more. Like Glamazon, Beth is heel, maybe babyface China.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go heel Beth, babyface China. I think that's the best iterations of both of them.
You know what the funny thing is? the truth about that is babyface China sucks. China's the best as the silent killer bodyguard, and I think she lost a lot when she became too much of a personality. But given the players, China has to be the babyface because you're just gonna root for China, you know.
She's got that DX thing going on for her, where it's like you're gonna potentially cheer her more.
The best thing about China as a babyface was that entrance with the little bazooka thing she had. But other than that, I always preferred her as a heel. But I think you'd have to go with it this way.
The main event of night one, the number one contenders match for the WWE Universal Championship. Macho Man Randy Savage against Seth Rollins, accompanied by Sensational Sherry. Obviously, Rollins is the heel. He's got Sherry by his side. Sherry's the way that she used to dress. Rollins the way that he dresses. The way that Savage dresses. That's just, alone when it comes to the costumes, that's going to be a thing that gets people talking. But Savage and Rollins was the first match that I paired off. I just think that they would work so well together.
I agree. I'd like to see that one.
Yeah, that definitely works as a match. A bit surprised you went with like Rollins winning, but I guess with Sherry it makes sense, and you can always do a rematch down the line.
And of course, if I could throw Miss Elizabeth in there, we didn't draft her because she couldn't have been drafted in that, but like the implication is that you've got Sherry on one side and you've got Elizabeth on the other side too. Yeah, Rollins wins, and you end the first night with a heel dancing around with his annoying cackling laugh and all that. Night two starts off with Owen Hart against Sami Zayn.
Wow, what a great match.
Yeah. Just start off with a hell of a match like that. Sammy's obviously the babyface. Owen's the heel. Owen cheats to win. Probably holds Sammy's tights. And it's effectively a number one contenders match for the mid-card championship in some fashion. And just write it down as that, because I'm like, oh, it doesn't need to be like written down as that. Obviously, they're not fighting for the XL championship. Yeah.
But that's very good, though.
But if Razor beats Edge for the Intercontinental Championship, that gives you Razor and Owen. If Edge retains, then somewhere down the line, Sami Zayn beats Owen and gets his way into that mix. Or Edge moves on to like Randy Savage or somebody. Because Edge and Randy Savage was another one I was thinking of.
I think you did that one before.
Probably.
When we did one of these cards.
So you go from Owen Hart versus Sami Zayn to a tag team match for the tag team titles. The New Day, Big E, and Xavier Woods, as obviously the baby faces, against Money Inc., heel tag team champions, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and John Bradshaw Layfield. Obviously, they were going to be paired off.
Listen, he didn't get drafted, but if there was ever a time for a babyface turn from Virgil, it's this one.
Ted DiBiase and JBL go in as champions. They are unscrupulous. They figure out a way to cheat to win. They beat the New Day.
Never mind what I said. Tony believes in capitalism and capitalism alone.
No, I just want to set up the idea that you're starting off with, Edge potentially beat Razor. Beth beats China. Seth beats Randy. Owen beats Zayn. Like we're getting some heels winning along here. And Ted and JBL also could be going up against Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, since they won that other tag team match. And that's probably where the titles would change hands. I don't know. Depends on what the buy rate is. Let's find that out. We have an I Quit match for the number one contenders for the women's title. Ronda Rousey as babyface beating heel Victoria. Victoria is not known for submissions and stuff, but I figure it's the difference between somebody who can grapple and wrestle and do all MMA stuff like Ronda Rousey and Victoria being like, I'm going to beat you into submission with an I Quit. But she doesn't. Ronda Rousey wins. So Ronda Rousey versus Beth in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I probably, like, in my situation, or if this was going in my way, I probably would have paired Rousey with Alundra and Tiffany with Victoria. But then you'd have to have Tiffany as babyface, which I'm not as super keen on.
Exactly.
But I think they kind of still mesh together better. I mean, I wouldn't actually mind having Victoria as a babyface against Tiffany, and then Ronda as a heel against Alundra.
I separated which ones I thought were heels, faces, that kind of thing, and I was like, all right, well, Victoria and Tiffany are definitely heels. Alundra is definitely face. And then I had Ronda, Beth, and Chyna in the middle of like, they could go anywhere.
Mm.
Well, and then I also had like Deborah and Sable and whatnot. And then I was like, I just put them off on the side. Like I'm not going to do anything with Sherry and Sable and whatnot. So then the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, well, I don't really want to see like Alundra versus Victoria and Ronda versus Tiffany, or it just kind of worked out like that. So Ronda and Victoria, not my favorite, but it is what it is. You're gonna love this one, Callum. Singles match between Lexis King and X-Pac.
Yeah.
Why?
I got a feeling they would work well together, honestly. And it's
But Lexis King doesn't work well with anybody. So your logic is flawed there already.
Well, the rule, put him with Kid, see if he works.
Well, see, if you'd introduced it like that, I think that's funnier.
I think that they have that like sort of obnoxious sides to themselves where I could see them working well. So X-Pac's the babyface, Lexis King's the heel. Going with another heel win here, Lexis King doing something to beat X-Pac and it just pissing people off.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him to win, but okay.
Then there's my traditional no DQ type match. It's a House of Horrors match. Bray Wyatt against Mankind. They beat the shit out of each other. They have a bunch of weapons, bunch of spooky stuff. Can't see any reason why Bray Wyatt against Mankind wouldn't work. And of course, Mankind's babyface, Bray Wyatt's heel.
Yeah, I think they typically hover around each other as well.
Yeah, I definitely like the pairing. I probably would have put it in like a Boiler Room Brawl type scenario rather than House Horrors, because House Horrors sound a bit too wacky for my taste.
Yeah,
It was originally written down as Boiler Room Brawl. And then I was like, well, if we're going to go not just like put them in the backstage area, then we could like do some other kind of set. We could do some like I thought about like Madhouse of Horror and more like an insane asylum type thing. And I was like, well, I'm not actually like plotting this out. I'm not gonna, So I was more House of Horrors works for me. I'm probably gonna go Bray Wyatt wins. Another heel. Then I have an idea that I've brought up many, many times before where I don't like the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship and the North American Championship and all that. So again, we have the National Championship, and whoever holds it effectively changes the side plates to be like, if you were from France, it's now like got the French flag on it and all that. So right now it's the UK Championship. William Regal against Roderick Strong. That's your Chad Gable, Kurt Angle match. That's your Dean Malenko, Daniel Bryan match.
Yeah, I mean that's the match I'd like to watch.
Roderick Strong goes in as babyface. He loses. William Regal retains. Keeps the UK title. We're not switching it over to the United States yet. And that's another thing too, where you could go with like does like an Aleister Black get a number one contender spot through that? Is that more so where Sami Zayn goes? But I probably would go with Braun Breaker beating Jeff Jarrett at the beginning of it. Sets up Braun Breaker to be the guy that beats William Regal.
Yeah, I like that.
Women's tag team match. I don't know if it's for titles or if there's just not enough people to justify having a title for the tag team division or whatever, but you've got the 5-foot fatales of Alexa Bliss and Zelina Vega. Obviously, they have the same height. They have interests in like cosplay, horror type stuff, same aesthetic in a lot of different ways. Against Jade Cargill and Naomi. They're already a tag team that worked. I didn't really want to put Jade against, like, say, Chyna and then have Naomi not have anything really to do. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, they work as a tag team. Now, I wrote down 2 different kind of names for them because like they never give them a name, but Naomi's got the caution tape stuff. Jade Cargill's got there's a storm coming thing. So I'm like, there's some kind of like weather alert type thing. So like maybe like Stormwatch would be their name.
What? But they were an actual tag team, weren't they?
But they didn't have a name, did they?
They weren't a tag team really because it was Jade and they were part of like a trio.
They were the big
Yeah.
three, but I guess big three doesn't work if you ain't got the third.
Yeah.
Without Bianca even in the mix for this, I couldn't do anything with her in there. But Cargill and Naomi beat Bliss and Vega, mostly because Cargill is just so much bigger.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing. Like, I think it works in principle, but it's kind of it'd be kind of hard to believe like Jade at any point having to sell for Alexa and Zelina.
Mm-hmm. It's weird to see her against them.
Yeah, she's like twice their height almost. So it's like, you'd almost have to have Naomi be the boat facing peril, and then just have Jade come in and squash them both pretty quickly.
Exactly. Bliss and Vega both double team Cargill at points, take her legs out. Like they do the whole dynamic. Then we got Logan Paul against Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but like,
it sucks that it's Logan Paul. But if you ignore who Logan Paul is, which we have to do every time we talk about how good he is in the ring and stuff, his character and his in-ring work, he would have a great match with Shawn Michaels.
Let me explain to you like this in real life. I just shaved all my hair off, and I get it, and it's practical. But trust me, I don't fucking like it. I fucking hate it. That's how this match makes me feel.
I mean, go back to the draft, and it's like, I guess I'll draft Logan Paul because I don't like Logan Paul at all. But damn it, if you can't take his mic skills, his character, and his in-ring work and give it to somebody who's a decent human being, he'd be fucking amazing. And Logan Paul against Shawn Michaels, those cocky flip type characters and stuff, they would kill it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's put it this way: like, you guys both love Shawn Michaels. I'm saying I don't. It's not on my like super high level, but obviously respect to what he did as well. There was a point in time where Shawn Michaels wasn't much worse than what Logan Paul is. So,
yep.
So let's just imagine that Paul found God in the right way, and changed his ways.
Or it's just or
he's having this match, and he will have it in like 10 years' time after this match takes place.
We're living in a fantasy world where he's not a terrible person, just the same as booking Chris Benoit and stuff. But Logan Paul against Shawn Michaels.
Hey, this is before my card is before that happened. It doesn't say that it didn't happen.
Oh, so in your universe, it's canon that he goes on and does that. That's terrible.
I'm saying you can only change people so much. Like, there has to be some level of realism put into this.
So we've had a lot of heels winning. I'm going to go Shawn Michaels beating Logan Paul. And I think you have a very stereotypical finish here. Logan Paul does something where he jumps off the ropes, or he goes for his not buckshot lariat, but clearly buckshot lariat move and goes right into a Sweet J Music. Yep, then we got our big man buffet, because we got to have a big man buffet, even though I already had the big man belt, the XL championship, but you need a number one contender for that. So it's a number one contenders battle royal. And since there are 6 people in there, it is called, as well as the big man buffet, the not quite a 6-pack number one contenders battle royal. But also, because it is the big man buffet, it's not even just called the number one contenders. It's the number one special.
Jesus Christ. What's wrong with you?
You got Batista, Braun Strowman, Josh Briggs, Kane, Rikishi, and Yokozuna.
Oh man, you wasted Batista in a fucking big man buffet. I could have done like Evolution versus the Bloodline. I could have done a lot of things with Batista.
Well, if we swapped, I would give you Batista for Diesel, and then I would throw Diesel in here. You know what I mean? It would have been the same thing.
Yeah, that's a much better thing.
But that's a good big group of people. former world champions in there with Batista, Braun Strowman, Kane, and Yokozuna. A guy that maybe if there would have been 2 world champions, maybe Rikishi would have won that. And then a guy like Josh Briggs, who is more of a representative of just the tall side of the big and tall championship thing. Obviously, Josh Briggs is lower on the totem pole, but maybe he comes in as like a baby face that's sort of like, well, can I overcome the odds sort of a thing. But the only people that I had down, it's like a definitive face and heel out of this, where Rikishi is a fun baby face. And he's also with Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa to a certain extent. And Yokozuna is definitely a heel, because heel Yokozuna is far superior. There's no comparison. Braun, probably a baby face. Josh, definitely a baby face. I should have put him down as on the blue side of things here. Batista could be heel Batista. And Kane, you could always go heel or face with Kane. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to go Kane winning, because Kane going up against Obafemi as the first person that Obafemi can retain the XL championship over, that would be a hell of a match too. And you end.
Like I was to say, like, it's why is it not quite a 6-pack when it is a 6-pack?
Because they don't have 6-packs.
Yeah.
Like Yokozuna doesn't have a 6-pack.
I'd say Batista definitely has a 6-pack.
Well, Batista does. Kane when he wanted to, but not the rest of them.
Yeah.
And the main event of the whole thing, it's all been building up to the Universal WWE Championship match. Heel Kevin Owens up against babyface Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's a very Tony match.
And babyface Bret figures out a way to win. So that means we're setting up Bret against Seth Rollins.
Yeah, that's also a very Tony match. Like,
Right. 2 things. I really like that match, so there's already much needs to be said about it because it's just a great match. First of all, why is your main title called WWE Universal Championship?
I was going to mention
your previous
that
one is the
too.
WWE Championship. Double contenders match. This is odd that you've called it the Universal Championship.
I'm pretty sure it didn't fit when I had typed that out.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. Okay, I changed the text size. At one point, it wasn't fitting.
Oh, because at least the 1B question is why you've gone with the Universal Championship over just the WWE Championship or the WWE World Championship.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Like, why?
It's partially because I hate the whole world and United States and North American and all that thing. So I was like, well, if you have the Intercontinental Championship, that means world. And then you've got the National Championship is like, that's more specific country things. So the national title
you need the
is
main champion to be the champion of the universe, right?
Yes. You go from the third tier belt is the national championship. Then you've got the cruiserweight and the XL titles are the weight based ones. And then you've got Intercontinental title is essentially a world championship. And then you've got the Universal Championship above it.
Okay. All right, then my second question is, in this kind of fictionalized universe before anything, please tell me you at least had, in the lead up to this pay-per-view, a tag team match with Bret Hart and Sami Zayn versus Owen Hart and Kevin Owens.
100%. You know exactly what I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
That's a definitive, like, that's the Raw beforehand, or that's the B-level pay-per-view, the In Your House or something. And you've got Bret against Owen, you've got Sami against Kevin Owens. You could do that kind of thing or whatever, but you could do Bret and Owen against Sami and Kevin. Like, yeah, it's just too obvious. I had to. That was one of the reasons as well why I went with Bret against Kevin, because I had Bret against Rollins and Michaels against Owens and Logan Paul against Randy Savage. And I kind of swapped those 3 around. I at one point had Kevin Owens against Mankind. I had Shawn Michaels against was it Shawn? It was Mankind and Owens. Bret against Edge. I think I had Shawn and Shawn, Razor, and X-Pac in a 3-man, 6-man tag thing. I had Braun Breaker against Brock Lesnar. I had Jacob Fatu in a singles match at one point against Shawn Michaels, just because I was like, God damn, I don't even know what that would work like, but that I got a feeling that'd be a lot of fun. there were, again, spoiled for possibilities. Actually, I kept some of the list. I also had down Razor, X-Pac, Sean. They would have been against potentially Logan Paul, Jeff Jarrett, and Lexus King as like the group of like 3 obnoxious people. I had Jacob Fatu against Haku. I had Jacob Fatu against Obafemi, which we could still get. That was one of the reasons why I didn't go there. Seth against Owen was an option. Randy against Owens. Bret Hart against Braun Breaker. Bret against Sammy. Like, I even had Razor Ramon against Carmelo Hayes. Like, so many people could have worked together. That's where we go with.
Yep, it's really solid 2-night card as well. I'd say it peaks with both the Hart matches against Zayn and Owens, respectively. They're probably the favourite ones.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a main event, and it's a wacky card, but I think I'd sit through all of it to get to Owens and Bret at the very least.
Yeah, the ones that are least inspiring to me are probably Al Snow, Aleister Black, and Lexus King X-Pac. They're just... Yeah,
Al Snow, Aleister Black's my least favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. Neither of those are for me, those matches. So
yeah, that's our fantasy card stuff. So, the deal, leave your comments below. Tell us what you liked the best, what you thought was a little underwhelming, what you would have done if you would have switched this around. Which card did you like the best out of the 3? Not that we keep track of any points for that, but yeah, it's bragging rights, I guess. And maybe in the future, maybe I'm gonna, I mentioned before, like I might do something with that Marvel and DC thing as a dark cast. I might try to play around with the other rosters that Rob and Callum have, and might do my own little list for that and just toss that out there too. I don't know. We'll see. But that'll be Darkcast. So if you are not on the Darkcast tier, then you will not be able to hear and see that. And, the easiest way to join the Darkcast tier is to be on YouTube right now. Just click on that join button. If you're on Patreon, same exact thing there. If you are on YouTube, double check all those other things I mentioned before. Hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Make sure that you support everything else you can see on the link tree at amangotree.com for all my different stuff that you can see there. And make sure you're following Rob and Callum too.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dudeful East. Check out my work on Fightful.com. Check out, I would say mostly the social stuff. I mean, Fightful, if you've noticed these days, it's basically like I'm Fightful after dark, and that's just about it at this point. So if you want to check out what I'm doing the rest of the day, follow me on social media. But you should be checking out Callum and all the cool stuff he does.
So you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Weeknice14. You should be following the Power Rankings every single Saturday over on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And then, speaking of drafting, you can head on over to the Fantasy League, where we drafted our teams a couple of months ago at this point, and now they've been picking up their points as the weeks go on. We're heading into Night of Champions, which is another big point-scoring opportunity. So you can follow along to see how our teams are doing, who's taking the lead at this point. And follow all that stuff along there, either through Smark at Moment or at www.fantasyleague.com.
Also, make sure to stay tuned tomorrow for the hot tags of the week, where we will talk about the different news, rumors, gossip, TV recap, that stuff. We're going to talk about the review of Grand Slam Mexico, the G1 Climax participants that have been announced, Liv Morgan's injury, and so on and so forth. Whoever knows what happens tonight, I don't know. I'm not that prophetic. So hop on over to that, and also let us know what you want us to do for the next round of the mock draft that we do at some point, because we always love doing these. And if you have any suggestions of some like fun little concept or something, then we can take that into consideration, especially with things like Evolution coming up. Maybe we can do something else based off of that, because we've done a couple of those in the past, but that's not been something that we've done a whole lot. And we got Night of Champions coming up next week as well. Give our predictions and run down that whole pay-per-view card and everything. But it's going to do us in for this Matchmaker edition. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your support. And we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.